Detective recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a drama, mystery, and thriller film called The Game. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. Nicholas Van Orton, a wealthy investment banker in San Francisco, is turning 48, but his busy life leaves him very little time to celebrate his birthday. He spends most of the day working and even ignores a call from his ex-wife, Elizabeth. But as he goes through his appointments, he learns that his younger brother, Conrad, is in town, so he meets up with him at a local restaurant. Conrad, who has been in and out of rehab, presents Nicholas with a voucher for a company called Consumer Recreation Services as a birthday gift. He avoids telling Nicholas any detail about the gift, but he assures his brother that he will have a profound life experience if he contacts the company behind it. That night, Elizabeth calls Nicholas at home to greet him with a happy birthday. Elizabeth worries that he might be going through a difficult time because of his father, who died on his 48th birthday. After hanging up, he recalls how his father jumped from their rooftop and fell to his death near the front door of their house. The following day, Nicholas notices a stall for CRS in a building and decides to visit their office. Jim Feingold, who introduces himself as the company's vice president of engineering and data analysis, tells Nicholas that the company offers a customized game for each participant. Nicholas is frustrated by the lack of details about the game, but he's become intrigued, so he fills out the forms and takes the tests. Nicholas later calls his brother and tells him that he already went to CRS, but he is still not convinced if he should participate in the game. He schedules a dinner with Conrad later that week. After playing squash on his own, he overhears two bankers talking about CRS in the locker room. He buys them a drink in an attempt to find out more about the mysterious game. The bankers hint that they had fun playing but won't reveal any details to him. The following day, he receives a call from CRS, telling him that his application for the game has been rejected. When he gets home, he sees a body lying in front of the house, but he soon finds out that it is just a wooden clown doll. He takes it inside and discovers a key hidden in the doll's mouth. He continues to inspect the wooden figure, but he's suddenly startled when he hears his name mentioned in the news. He turns his attention to the TV when the news anchor starts to address him directly. The anchor tells him that the game has just begun, and the key in his hand is one of the few that he'll get in the following days. However, no one will tell him where he could find the others and how he could use them. Nicholas deduces that someone is watching him, so he starts to look for the camera. The anchor begins to taunt him, but when the household help, Ilsa, approaches the room, he goes back to presenting the news. After Ilsa leaves, the TV switches to the view from the camera, allowing Nicholas to find it. He locates the camera inside the doll's eyes and takes it apart. The anchor advises Nicholas to write down a 24-hour hotline that he could call for emergencies. However, he warns Nicholas against using it to ask about the objective of the game. The anchor stresses that figuring the game out for himself would be his primary goal. The next day, Nicholas meets up with Anson Bear, a publisher who works for his father, to dismiss him from the company for failing to meet his expectations. He offers Anson a severance package, but he couldn't open his briefcase to take out the documents. He tries to open it with the CRS key, but it wouldn't turn, so he leaves Anson's office without getting his signature. Later on, Nicholas goes to a restaurant to have dinner with Conrad, but his brother is running late. While he's waiting, a waitress named Christine accidentally spills a drink on him. The maitre d' fires Christine and sets up another table for Nicholas, but before he could order some food, a waiter leaves the check on his desk. He looks at the bill and finds a note inside. Nicholas goes outside the restaurant to run after Christine to ask her about the note. As he chases her on the street, they come across a man collapsing on the sidewalk. They call for help and put the man in an ambulance. Nicholas wants to go on his way, but a police officer tells him that he must come with them to the hospital to fill up a report. On their way to the hospital, he shows Christine the note which says, "Don't let her get away." When they arrive at the hospital, all the lights suddenly go out. As they find their way out of the building, they see an elevator open up. The lift wouldn't move, so Nicholas instinctively tries using the CRS key. The elevator starts moving when he turns the key, but it shuts down before they could reach the lobby. The pair manages to get out through the hatch, but Nicholas realizes he left his briefcase inside as soon as the elevator doors close. Nicholas later discovers that they are in the CRS building. The alarm soon goes off, prompting Christine to run. The CRS security team lets an attack dog loose to chase after them, so they evade it by getting up on the fire escape. With no other way to go back down, they decide to jump down to a trash bin to break their fall. They stop by Nicholas' office to get cleaned up. Nicholas calls a cab for Christine and offers to call the restaurant to hire her back. She turns down the offer and confesses that she was paid $400 to spill the drink on Nicholas as a prank. The following day, Nicholas is awakened by a call from his assistant, Maria, telling him that his American Express card has arrived at the front desk of Hotel Nico. The receptionist informs Nicholas that a young woman had asked for him on the phone, but he failed to catch her name. When Nicholas gets inside his hotel room, he finds numerous lewd pictures and drugs scattered on the desk. He puts the pills away and rushes out of the hotel, taking the pictures with him on a briefcase. Nicholas notices a car following him on the road, so he turns on a corner and waits for the other vehicle in an alley. When the car arrives, he confronts the driver and grabs a gun from the man's shirt. Nicholas uses the firearm to shoot the man's tires, thinking that it's a prop for the game. Frightened by the gunshot, the man confesses that he's a private investigator and someone hired him to follow Nicholas. Before Nicholas could even find out who hired him, the PI runs away. Nicholas confronts Anson, suspecting that he is behind the pictures and the PI that followed him. Anson notifies him that he has already accepted the severance package earlier that day, and he has decided to go sailing. Nicholas realizes that Anson had nothing to do with the pictures, so he apologizes and leaves. He asks his attorney, Sam Sutherland, to investigate CRS and shows him a waiver that he signed. However, when Sutherland inspects the document, he only sees Nicholas' signature. After Sutherland leaves, he asks his assistant to contact the cab company that took Christine home and finds out her address. While speaking with his assistant, he notices an envelope containing a window crank handle. Nicholas goes home to find that someone had broken into the house and vandalized the rooms. As he speaks with the police, Conrad arrives in panic and asks Nicholas to meet him at his car. On the road, Conrad checks the car for bugs and tells Nicholas that CRS is after him. He claims that he had already paid the bills for their services, but the company still won't stop harassing him. A tire suddenly blows up, forcing Nicholas to park the car on the side of the street. While Nicholas prepares to change the flat tire, Conrad finds multiple CRS keys in the glove compartment and accuses his brother of being a part of the company. The two brothers have a loud argument on the street until Conrad runs away. As he watches his brother from a distance, Nicholas suddenly hears a payphone ring from across the street. When he picks it up, he hears a recording of the argument they had just a few minutes ago. Nicholas decides to leave his car behind and hail a cab to go back home. Along the way, he notices that the driver missed a turn and asks him to stop the vehicle. The driver ignores him and keeps going despite his demands. When they get close to the docks, the driver jumps out of the cab, leaving Nicholas locked inside. As the car sinks below the water, Nicholas notices that the window crank handle is missing from the car door. He remembers the handle that he found on an envelope and uses it to roll the window down and swim out of the car. The police try to raid the CRS office the next day after Nicholas filed a complaint against the company. However, the office was empty, and the management informs them that the floor wasn't officially rented out. Moreover, they can't find any listing for a company called Consumer Recreation Service or any variant of its name. That night, Nicholas goes to Christine's house to talk to her about the pictures he found in his hotel room. Christine wouldn't confirm or deny if she's the woman in the photo, but she asks Nicholas to stay and talk. As Christine changes her clothes, Nicholas looks around and notices that the refrigerator is empty and the books on the shelves are fake. He takes a photo out of a frame and finds out that it is a cutout from a magazine. Christine realizes that Nicholas already knows that she's part of the game, so she points out that they're being watched. Nicholas grabs a fire iron and uses it to hit the camera on the ceiling. CRS operatives soon arrive outside the house and start shooting at them. Christine and Nicholas manage to sneak out of the house and drive away in a car. Christine reveals that the company has already drained his bank accounts using the passwords that they figured out from the tests that he took. Nicholas calls the Swiss bank to confirm his balance and finds out that it is now empty. During a rest stop, Nicholas calls Sutherland to inform him about what happened to his bank accounts. He tells the lawyer to contact the police because people from the CRS are trying to kill him. In his rest house, Nicholas receives a call from Sutherland, who assures him that all his accounts are still intact. Christine suggests that his lawyer is lying and is probably working with the company. When Sutherland asks for his precise location, Nicholas drops the call. Nicholas soon starts feeling drowsy as soon as he puts the phone down. As he falls out of consciousness, Christine tells him that the company intercepted his phone calls and learned his access codes when he checked his bank accounts. She points out that the company already has all the information they need, so they don't need Nicholas anymore. When he wakes up, Nicholas finds himself inside a wooden box in a cemetery in Mexico. Having no money or any documentation, he goes to the embassy to seek help. An officer notices Nicholas' expensive watch and suggests that he should sell it and use the money to return to the US. He decides to take the man's advice and sell the item, which was given to him by his mother on his 18th birthday. With barely enough money to get back home, he rides the bus to the border and hitchhikes until he reaches San Francisco. Nicholas arrives home only to find it foreclosed, so he decides to break in and stay the night. In the morning, he grabs a book from a shelf and some cash hidden away in a jar. He goes to a hotel to find Conrad, but the manager says that his brother has been sent to a hospital in Napa due to a nervous breakdown. Having no other options, Nicholas meets with Elizabeth to borrow her car. While they're talking in a restaurant, he sees Jim Feingold on TV and realizes that he's an actor CRS hired for the game. Armed with a gun he hid in a book, Nicholas tracks Jim down to a zoo and threatens him until he agrees to take him to CRS. Jim, whose real name is Lionel Fisher, tells Nicholas that the company owns the whole building and they only move their office from floor to floor. Fisher expresses his doubts that Nicholas will ever get his money back, but the banker insists that he wants to meet the people behind the company. When they arrive at the building, Fisher leads Nicholas to the cafeteria, recognizing a few familiar faces. Nicholas approaches Christine and tells her to come with him. Armed security guards arrive and start shooting towards them, hitting Fisher and other actors at the cafeteria. Christine and Nicholas run up the stairs to the roof, locking the door behind them. Nicholas threatens to shoot Christine unless she gets on the radio and calls for someone in charge. Christine argues that no one will appear because they don't care about her. When he points the gun in her face, she realizes that the firearm didn't come from the company. She gets on the radio, warns the guards that Nicholas is armed with a real gun. Christine urges Nicholas to put the gun down and starts admitting that he is still in the game. When Nicholas points out that he saw the guards kill Fisher a few minutes ago, Christine reveals that the incident was staged. As the guards arrive at the door, Christine explains that there was always a safety net when Nicholas gets into dangerous situations. When he rode the taxi, a diver was waiting when Nicholas almost drowned at the pier. When he went to her house, the guards who chased them were firing blanks. She finally tells Nicholas that the people behind the door are waiting with a bottle of champagne to celebrate his birthday party. Nicholas refuses to believe Christine and points the gun at the door as the guards use an electric saw to cut through the lock. As soon as the door opens, Nicholas shoots his weapon, hitting Conrad on the chest. As Conrad lies down on the ground, Nicholas notices Fisher, who is very much alive. Fisher checks for Conrad's pulse and confirms that he's dead. Appalled by what he's done, Nicholas gets up on the ledge and jumps off the building. Memories of his father and his childhood flash in his mind as he falls. He then goes through a glass roof and lands on a giant airbag upon reaching the ground. As the med team helps him up, Conrad approaches him and greets him with a happy birthday. He starts enjoying the party as soon as the emotions from his nerve-wracking ordeal begin to wear out. When he finds out that Christine was leaving the party, he rushes out to say goodbye. Christine reveals that her real name is Claire. She tells Nicholas that she has to catch a plane to Australia for another gig starting in a week. Nicholas asks Claire to have dinner with him when she returns. Knowing that she won't be back for a while, Claire invites him to have coffee at the airport instead. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.